Live boy. And I'm just gonna go ahead and get everyone. And once I actually start getting some followers in, I'll start posting your Twitch thing into the live chat. Haha, really? You're getting a Trump ad from my stream? Haha, that's funny. I wasn't saying anything actually. Alright, and we are actually getting a couple of people in here. And everyone that's actually joining right now, welcome to the live stream. This is just going to be a little bit, we're kind of setting up a little bit, so just bear with us for at least a moment while we actually do all of that. All right, and welcome everyone to the live stream. I am being joined by Zach Z right now. We are actually simultaneously live streaming right now. He is actually streaming on Twitch, so if you'll actually go follow him at the link I'm actually going to go ahead and post right now. Instead of just seeing a little bit of a background, you're actually going to be able to see him on his live stream. So go ahead and follow him on Twitch if you actually have a Twitch account. Otherwise, everyone, welcome to the live stream. This is actually going to be a little bit of a different live stream. I haven't had a little bit of a little discussion podcast, I guess, in a while. So today we are actually going to be discussing Minnesota. And if you are living under a rock, you will know that the 3rd precinct of Minnesota was actually burned down last night. So basically, this was in response to the killing of a man. It was George Floyd. His name was George Floyd, and basically, he was arrested for he was trying to pay for something with a counterfeit $20 bill. And then so the cops were called on him, the police responded, and then so whenever they were trying to arrest him and apprehend him, they actually ended up kneeling on his neck. So that was actually really overboard. You cannot really say anything about it. It was wrong for these cops to actually do that. But this is all about a discussion that me and Zach Z are going to have, and I'm going to be interacting with the chat as the stream moves on. So Zach, you can go ahead and introduce yourself. Yeah, it actually was confirmed. Apparently, there may be an issue with people hearing you right now. I'm trying to get that fixed. Yeah, I'm listening to my own stream. What'd you say? Okay, let me go ahead and fix that. Okay, I think it's because, literally because I have the wrong thing set up. Go ahead and speak now. Yeah, go ahead. I hate having to do this. This sucks. Yeah, 5 viewers, and then we're already botching the stream because we can't get anything set up correctly. Okay. I'm literally just trying to get this done. Okay, good. I can hear you slightly on the stream, but it's really, really muffled. Yeah. It says that it's receiving your audio because I can see that it's receiving the audio, but what it's not getting is. Wait, hang on. It's because I have Discord set up wrong. God damn it. Game. Say something. Yeah, oh my god. Oh my god, I don't know what's going on. Someone help. I literally thought I had all this done. I may or may not just have to just depend on your stream, I guess. Yeah, are all your wires fixed, PG? Yes, they are. Everything should be set up correctly, but if this doesn't work out, okay, let me... Okay, so there's desktop 2.
Oh yeah, Solitary System is on my stream as well. So both of our streams are fine. Like you can hear both of us clearly. On my stream as well. So
got it. I got it. For whatever reason, I got it.
Okay, you got it.
Yep. Finally, we got it.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Perfect. Okay. Let's go. All right. I do apologize. God, it took us 12 minutes, 13 minutes just to get all that shit set up.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, It's the first. I mean, we're gonna be making some mistakes along the way, I guess.
Yeah, as long as we get it fixed before we do it again next time. All
Exactly.
right.
Um,
So back to my intro before literally all of y'all couldn't hear. Okay, so today we're actually going to be talking about Minnesota, just kind of backtrack on what we were doing. We're actually going to be talking about Minnesota today if you have been living under a rock over the past 2 days. Basically, in Minnesota, there was a police officer, there were 4 police officers that were involved in this killing. Basically, someone by the name of George Floyd tried to pay for something with a counterfeit $20 bill. And yes, Zach, for your question earlier, that is confirmed. That was actually the story. There's a couple of other stories that are going around, but that's kind of like the consensus is that I've kind of picked up on is that they that he tried to pay for something with the $20 bill that was counterfeit. So the cops were called on him, and then so whenever the cops were actually responding to him, they arrested him and then they moved him over to a bus stop. So what happened is that they ended up getting him on the ground and saying that he was resisting. One of the officers put his knee on his neck and then the other officer had his knee on his spine. And I'm only explaining this to the viewers again who have not been paying attention to what's been going on in Minnesota. Basically, this person told the officers, hey, I can't breathe, and unfortunately he did die. So last night, if you were watching anything, basically the 3rd precinct of the city of Minneapolis was basically reduced to rubble. It was absolutely destroyed. I believe that these are going to be probably even worse than the Los Angeles riots of 1993. So it's a complicated situation, but in my opinion, I do believe that the cops were actually in the wrong. But Zach, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and then give your opinion on what's going on.
of course. So for anyone on PG stream or anyone just joining my stream who is not joined the stream from yesterday because I've pretty much just started out. My name's Zach. Of course. I had a YouTube channel a few years ago where I did election predictions and things like that. And that's where I met PG. We had a pretty heated debate back then on just a whole bunch of issues, socialism and immigration, which was pretty fun. And we've had discussions in the past about doing something like this before, like a kind of podcast kind of thing where we can both, discuss and debate on issues and and we're finally doing it. And I don't think that there can be a better time. I mean, between COVID, between now the riots, it's certainly a great time to be doing something like this, I think. So yeah, the riots are crazy, and I think that the number one thing that separates these riots from, because in the past, I mean, this isn't the first instance, obviously, where an unarmed black man even this year has been killed in a brutal way by a police officer. But I think the number one thing that's separating this event and making this event highlighted for everyone in such a way is the fact that one is very clearly shows the fact that any person looking at that video, seeing that man's neck on George Floyd's that man's knee on George Floyd's neck will immediately just know that that's not what they're supposed to be doing, and will immediately know that this is not right. So I think that the outrage in this event particularly is very clear. The other thing as well is the nature of the crime, because PG, like you were saying before, because what I heard before was forgery. I heard that he was accused of forging a document or something along those lines, or now maybe it's counterfeit. But either way, let's not split hairs here. This was not a serious in any way a violent crime. This is something that he made that wasn't maybe not even was criminal. I mean, if he had a counterfeit $20 bill, if that's what happened, then that's not necessarily criminal liability for him at all. Like, you can possess a $20 counterfeit bill without knowing it's counterfeit.
It's not something that you should die for. Like, it's not like counterfeiting a $20 bill is one thing, but like it's not something to where it should get to the point to where you should have your air sucked out of you, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So let's not split hairs here. Either way, this was a completely and utterly non-violent, not even not. I will go farther to say that it was not even a harmful. This was a crime. I mean, forgery is something that every middle schooler in high school commits at some point, and the sentence for that is not death. There's no death sentence for forgery. So the outrage in this is obviously very apparent, and I would also like to touch on. We can get into this later if you want to, but I think it's very. I think Amy Klobuchar's association with all this that was a bombshell. I mean,
that was a bombshell.
Get about her.
I was shocked whenever I learned that. And for those who are actually watching, basically, Amy Klobuchar, the former presidential candidate from the state of Minnesota and also senator of the state of Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar was actually the district attorney for a district in the city of Minneapolis. And so yesterday it was actually revealed that Amy Klobuchar actually refused to bring charges against a police officer who unjustly, or I believe unjustly, this story is still kind of like circulating, so I'm still trying to get all the facts on it, but the story is that she allegedly did not bring charges against the police officer that actually shot and killed a Native American man for no reason at all. And that very same officer is the exact officer that is at the center of this case with George Floyd that died just the other day. So Amy Klobuchar is under fire currently because she did not bring charges against this police officer, and then that officer walked free and then killed another man, and then that's where we are right now.
Yeah, and it's what happened was that I believe it was like it was a bunch of different police officers who were accused of different crimes, and she made a decision as the Minnesota Attorney General to not prosecute it, as in she just turned it over to a grand jury, where the odds of any penalties or for criminal activity are pretty small, and that's what happened. The grand jury overturned it because they couldn't reach a unanimous consent, a unanimous vote on whether or not they were guilty. So then they went free. If Amy Klobuchar had chosen to prosecute that case, then most likely this wouldn't have happened. Like that's the bottom line here, is that if Amy Klobuchar had chosen instead of to take action against these men way years back, we would not be dealing with these riots today. That's I think pretty clear as day.
And guess who's on one of the possibilities of being a VP? Amy Klobuchar. So Cameron's Political Prediction Center said if Biden picks Klobuchar, he'll lose in a landslide, losing every single battleground state and possibly losing blue states like Illinois and Maryland. So I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, you can forget about Amy Klobuchar's chances of ever being picked for a VP. Forget about it. I think it would be suicide for the Biden campaign to pick Klobuchar as her. Is it Klobuchar or Klobuchar?
Klobuchar. It's Klobuchar.
Klobuchar? Okay. Klobuchar.
Klobuchar.
So yeah, Klobuchar. If Biden picks Klobuchar, it is absolutely suicide for the Biden camp. They would never recover from that. And they would literally have to pick someone else literally by the convention.
And it's not just her chances for the VP nomination. I mean, her political prospects, because she came out of the 2020 race looking very good. Like, she was one of the Democrats who came out of the 2020 race, not just looking good for the vice presidency, but looking good in general. Like, if she wasn't get the vice presidential pick, she would have gotten something, right? But now I don't think that she's going to get anything. With these riots, like, it's going to be pinned on her. The Republicans are already pinning it on her, and Democrats are already like turning on her as well. She has just lost all momentum that she had leaving the presidential race.
So in recent news on the Minnesota case, so they actually are bringing charges against the main officer that actually had his knee on Floyd's neck. So he was actually charged with third-degree murder. So it says the fired police officer seen in video with his knee on George Floyd's neck has been arrested and charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter, according to Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman. So the investigation is still ongoing, but they have finally actually brought charges against him, which he's going to be charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter, which honestly I believe is actually fair. I do believe that is actually, I don't think it was intentional, for the officer to kill him. I don't think that he thought that he was gonna kill him. But I do believe that that it was more than likely going to be manslaughter because I mean, it's literally the definition of manslaughter. So do you think manslaughter is actually, and for those who are watching right now, do you believe that manslaughter is actually, do you believe that manslaughter and third-degree murder is good enough for these charges?
I mean, I certainly think that at the bare minimum, it's going to be a sentence of manslaughter. But the question really is going to come down to the jury. I mean, it's debatable whether or not his intention was to kill George Floyd. Because what the jury, I mean, the things that you need to take into consideration here, is this guy's past, because this was not a straight shooting a police officer. This was a guy who has many incidents in the past and who's been the subject of controversy in the past. So I think that the odds of him being sentenced for murder are pretty high, especially considering all the public outcry about this. I'd say it's pretty decent. As for whether the facts lead to it or not, I mean, nobody can really say for certain. You see the video. I mean, if he wasn't intending to kill him, he wasn't thinking. I mean, I don't think you can say that his intention was not to kill him. I don't think he was thinking at all. I think that this is a guy who clearly has some trouble with his life, and who just was taking out his aggression and who has been taking out his aggression in a very unhealthy and problematic way through his job as a police officer. And I think that's pretty clear as day. I mean, the investigation into this guy around his actions in the past and around his killing of George Floyd is, I think, going to be very revealing. I think it's going to be very revealing once we learn the details of this guy and what we missed, really. What we missed, whether it was Amy Klobuchar's refusal to prosecute, whether it was anything else that we might have missed about this guy, that just red flags that could have been seen and weren't. I think that's going to be very, very revealing when all the facts come out from the investigation.
Yeah. So did you actually see the okay. So did you actually see about what happened to the CNN reporter that was actually reporting, and they were actually arrested by state police?
Really, they were arrested?
Yeah.
I did not see that, no.
Earlier this morning on May 29th, today's May 29th, Minnesota State Police it was next to a burning building, and CNN, they had one of their reporters and his camera crew just standing there, and basically the CNN or the state police came in. They basically arrested them. They didn't tell them what they were arresting them for. They just kind of like just swooped into the area and then arrested them. But CNN came back and they released a statement saying that their First Amendment rights were violated by the Minnesota State Police, and the governor actually of Minnesota, Tim Walz, actually intervened himself and released them that earlier today. So right now there's actually a curfew right now for May 29th and May 30th in the Twin Cities region from 8 p.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. And Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey also issued a similar curfew. And Albert, for your question, who was arrested, it was a CNN reporter. They were reporting on the riots that were happening in the Twin Cities, and they were arrested. They were not arrested for any reason whatsoever. And if you watch the video, it literally just shows like them just reporting, and state police literally just kind of swoop into the area. And I can pull the video up in a second. The city police just swoop into the area and then just arrest them. They don't tell them why. They just start arresting them one by one.
I'm having someone in my chat saying they can't find the whole clip, but yeah, that's what I was thinking about too. Hey, what's going on?
Pull the video up then.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking about as well, because I obviously these riots are taking place during a very unique time in U.S. history. I mean, Is there still COVID-19 lockdown measures like in place for Minnesota? I didn't check on that, but I was meaning to.
There's
Yeah.
COVID-19
I
is
mean,
still all over the country. It's still an issue.
I know it's still all over the country, but I was wondering if there's still like a lockdown in Minnesota to the point where they can't gather to protest. Because I was thinking that maybe that would be a contributing factor to why the riots occurred in the first place. But that's just speculation. I'm not. I can't substantiate that.
No, I mean it's kind of one of those things where where they're not going to let themselves be scared of a little disease just because they're just because there's a disease out there doesn't stop them from trying to achieve social justice. So just because, that, and I'm pulling the video up right now, I'm going to go ahead and start playing the video.
Okay.
So basically just them. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things, you're not going to let a disease scare you from achieving your right. You're if you're being killed in the streets, yeah. So right here,
I'm watching the video with you now.
Yeah, it's right here. This is whenever they start to apprehend the CNN reporters. They identify themselves as press, and they the state police doesn't even care. They just they arrest them. They arrest them, put their stuff down, and again, no reason at all.
That's crazy. That's certainly crazy. I mean, it's anarchy in that city right now, and I can only hope that the worst is past. I mean, obviously these riots, in some way, shape, or form, are going to be continuing for the next day or two. But you can only hope that the worst is past. And I mean, I think that the number one thing that we can be doing right now is just actually looking at the solutions at hand for how we can handle this crisis, because this is going to happen again. If we do nothing, this is going to happen again, because after the Baltimore riots, nothing was done. Nothing was done. And yet we still continue to see disproportionate numbers of African Americans who are unarmed and being killed by police every single year. Every single year. And this event obviously drew attention to it, but if we just let this event stand as just an isolated incident and treat it as though it's an isolated incident, it's going to happen again. Something like this is going to happen again, and we're still going to keep having more incidents, hundreds of incidents, which has been happening every single year. Someone in my chat who asks, would it be ridiculous to say that leftists are responsible for George's death? I don't know what he means by that, but...
saying that, I guess...
Do you comment what he means by that? Because I'm not... I don't think I'm going to... Was that...
Because of democratic policies, I've heard this argument being used before. Basically, everyone is saying that that because of democratic policies, because it's Minneapolis, it's a democratic city. So of course some people are going to come out and they're going to be saying like, oh yeah, well the Democrats, I mean, the Democrats and Republicans, I'm sorry, like as a conservative and as a Republican, Democrats and Republicans are both wrong in this situation. Democrats are slightly even worse because I do believe that the Democratic governor and the Democratic mayor, they're not going to do anything after this. They're not going to sit there and they're not going to fight for a change. And I've been believing this for a little bit now, is that, and it's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans too. Like, in my own opinion, I do believe that Trump getting federal involvement into this investigation, it's because it's an election year. I mean, I believe that there's been several incidents where Trump basically ignored it. I don't think that he actually got federal involvement into the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, but there were several incidents before where, Trump didn't get federal involvement, where, if you're taking example for now, then, I don't know. But I
want to be careful about comparing. I want to be careful about comparing Ahmaud Arbery to what's going on now, because Ahmaud Arbery was a civilian case. The police were not involved in his killing. The reason why federal investigators are involved here is I think because it was the police who perpetrated the murder, and therefore it needs to be a federal investigation and into the police themselves.
The police with the Ahmaud Arbery case, they didn't get involved for 3 months.
in terms of inaction, I think there's absolutely blame there, but there's whether or not you think that the federal investigation is needed into that, I guess, is a different discussion. But I can't say that I agree that Democrats are worse on this issue than Republicans, because it's the number one thing that Republicans are guilty of throughout these race-related riots, and throughout whether it's Baltimore, whether it's now, is taking the riots and using this and painting with a broad brush the entire left and saying that they all want violence and they all want and that they don't have solutions and that this is their solution. The solution is to riot and to tear things down. And that all that does is belittle the one side that's actually is trying to come up with solutions, because the right isn't trying to come up with solutions for these problems. The right is not trying to come up with solutions. The only main comments I've heard from right wingers and conservatives about these issues and about the not just this isolated incident, but about the disproportionate killings of blacks in general, is that they just pretend they're colorblind. Like that's what I've been seeing, is that they don't think that race plays any role in criminal justice or in arrest, which is complete BS. It's complete BS if you look at any statistics. Obviously, race is a predominant factor when it comes to that, but they just look the other way. And I obviously think that there is blame on the left. I think there's blame on the left in the sense that they don't know what to do about it, and that they don't, and that this is kind of something that has been a mystery ever since Baltimore about why, like police killings has always been something of an enigma to American society. But I think that in recent years we've been discovering what the issue is, and we've been discovering how to address it. And the solution is obviously to change how we train our police, because our police are not good, obviously, at dealing with people who they're not familiar with. That's the issue here. It's not racism. I'm not calling police racist. I'm saying that anybody, whether it's police or anybody else, police are just people as well. They're not good at dealing with people who they don't know and are not familiar with. So therefore, they let self-defense step in for where it's necessary. But it's misplaced. It's misplaced because the reality is that black people are twice more unlikely than white people to be armed during an arrest. That's the reality. Their lives on average are not more at risk when arresting a black person compared to a white person. That's just the reality.
Oh man, just the whole situation is just.
I don't know. I can't.
Someone, so one of my viewers actually said both cases are linked together because when you think about it, if it had been a white jogger, then it wouldn't have been a problem. And then someone else said Republicans are worse. Sorry, they have always sided with the cops when it's their cause. But when far right-wing protesters in Michigan stormed the Capitol, police were insulted as being traitors. Okay, so this is one of the other things that I've actually been seeing, and it's people are literally comparing that the whole, you know, like white people in Michigan, just because they have to wear a mask, there wasn't tear gas used. So this one, whenever they're black, there's tear ase used. So one of the things is that, and I'm actually seeing, I actually saw a video earlier of one of the guys. Have you actually been hearing anything about like what's been going on the ground over in these in the situation?
I've on the ground, like I've heard about the precinct getting burned down. I've been trying to keep up on the things that are happening.
So are you at all
like as the rise unfolding?
Like with the conspiracy theory, I guess, that on the ground that there are cops that are causing the destruction and starting these looting riots?
Well, I haven't heard that one. I've heard some conspiracy theories about this as well, which I will absolutely be sharing. I mean, there's already like the alt-right is already spewing out their conspiracy theories about this, just like they do with the COVID. Any single major crisis that has occurred since 2016, there's always going to be a conspiracy with it. I've not seen a single conspiracy not come up from a major crisis or event that has occurred in the past 4 years. Not once. This is not going to be an exception either.
So I'm actually going to go ahead and pull the video up right now. Basically, there is a conspiracy that these people are, that there are cops basically killing some of these, or not killing, there are cops in the street that are like disguised as regular people, and it's white people specifically, and so there's actually a lot of people being targeted on the ground because they believe that these people, some of these protesters actually believe that they are actually police. So what I'm pulling up right now is actually going to be a video of an AutoZone, the AutoZone that was actually burned down. But basically what you are seeing is this guy right here. He's bringing a hammer up and then he's busting open these windows. And it's a guy in full black, has a gas mask on. This guy in pink actually confronts him, and he continues to break these windows. He keeps holding the hammer up and doing that. So the guy in pink actually follows him around. He kind of follows him. All these other people follow him. And then so the pink guy actually is saying, like, you know, this guy's a cop. He's probably a cop. For some reason, the guy's also holding a pizza box.
Yeah, that's a bit crazy. One of the conspiracy theories that I've heard is that George Floyd and the police officer that killed him both knew each other. They both knew each other and worked together at a club, like as security guards, like I think a year back. And I don't know if that's been confirmed yet, but the conspiracy theory is that they worked together and they knew each other, and that this was all some kind of government, and that this was perpetrated by the government, like the government set them up together for this to happen, and wanted the riots to occur to get federal aid money. That's the conspiracy theory that I've heard. That I think is just completely just batshit crazy.
One of the things that I can actually tell, honestly, I definitely think Antifa is actually behind it. I don't think
the riots. You think Antifa's behind the riots?
Really? Starting them. Because for whatever reason, it's mob mentality. People are in a group. People are in numbers. They know, and literally, police had evacuated. The city of Minneapolis evacuated the entire 3rd precinct, and they burned down the entire police station. So, you know, whenever you pull all of these cops out, you know, there's not going to be any law and order. And so that's what happened, is that all these people just were like, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take a TV, take a couple of lamps. I'm going to do something for myself, you know, but see, that's what I really hate, is that these people are just, they're taking advantage of the situation. But what I heard is actually the guy at the AutoZone is actually the one that started it. So whenever they say, okay, well, the cops are actually starting these riots, what they mean is actually because of the AutoZone. Right after the AutoZone was broken with that guy that I showed you, that was whenever the looting started. For some reason, it was a trigger in everyone's mind that, oh, it's okay to start taking stuff. It's okay to start destroying stuff. And then they burned down an entire apartment building. They burned down the entire police station. And yeah, so.
And you think that's Antifa doing that? That is Antifa who are.
I don't see the reason why the police would have a reason to do that. Because it's either going to be the police. I mean, because for one thing, I don't believe that Black Lives Matter is a violent group. I do believe Black Lives Matter actually does have a purpose. What I don't think is that that just because of this of taking advantage of the situation, because you have all these people that are literally saying that, you know, black people are more violent. They're going to be more likely to commit a crime or something like that because, you know, 13% of the population commits 50% of the crime. I've heard that point said time and time and time and time again. But the thing is that, for one, that's not an argument, because there's still not that much proof that just because of your skin color means you're going to commit a crime more likely. Like, that's just an infectious mindset. But at the same time, just because someone is breaking a window and then that causes everyone else to start breaking crap, that's not justifiable.
I think you just hung up on accident. Crap.
Nice.
Shit. Wait, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry. I had an incoming call and I thought I might have hung up on you in accident.
Apparently, someone is actually saying that they cut the gas lines on the entire block before they set the police station on fire.
Really, I mean, well, going back to what you were saying about, I mean, I don't think that any one organization is responsible for perpetrating these. I think that BLM and maybe even I haven't heard anything about Antifa, but I know that BLM has been associated with these riots.
Black Lives Matter, I can't see doing it. Antifa, they're extremely violent. Every single rally that they have.
But this isn't their. I haven't seen anything that is. I think that you should be careful when pinning the blame on a single organization, because I don't think there's a single organization that can be blamed for these riots. I think these riots are mostly just people who are pissed off without any affiliation with any groups or anything like that. People who are just pissed off and looking to break shit.
Just because you're pissed off doesn't mean that you should still burn down your entire precinct.
I'm not justifying it. I'm not justifying it at all. But I don't think that it's a single organization who is responsible for.
Well, I mean, this happened because people are pissed off. But you're kind of justifying it whenever you say that.
But that's the reason why they're doing it. I'm not justifying anything. I'm saying that that's the reason why they're doing it. That's not a justification. That's a reason. And it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right to break things when you're pissed off. But that's what people do when they're pissed off. I think that the way that we should. I think that once we acknowledge that that's the truth, and we acknowledge that the reason they're rioting is that they're pissed off, which is a completely reasonable explanation to have, then we can come to the conclusion that, okay, we need to find a solution, because the solution is the same solution to the disproportionate killing of black people is the same solution to the riots at the end of the day. So if you want to solve the riots, you got to solve the problem that's causing the riots. Mm-hmm. Is what I'm trying to say. I'm not justifying the riots in any way, shape, or form.
This is actually a discussion that I've been having with someone over the past couple of days. Another issue is that these people don't know how to organize. They don't know how to enact an actual change, because, protesting is one thing, but as soon as you start burning down your entire precinct, that's going to eliminate your entire thing. So what you need to do is that you need to organize. You need to start running for office. You need to start doing something on your own. You need to start doing something as a group. You need to do something to start that change, because these politicians right now, and I had this argument with someone yesterday, these politicians don't care. The people that care are the ones that are actually in the streets. And as soon as we get these people that are on the streets in the office, then there's going to be a change. But this guy in Minneapolis, the mayor,
people who are breaking into Target and stealing TVs into office, I don't think I want that.
I'm talking about the people who are a part of these protests, not
people who aren't breaking shit. Yes.
Yeah, yes. People who aren't breaking shit. People that actually care. Like the people that are running into a Target and taking TVs and shit, like. And that little white lady on that video that's like holding like 5 lamps in her hand, like she doesn't care. Like she just wants to get that sweet deal and some lamps. But the people that actually do care are the people that are actually in the streets, that are actually protesting, that are actually trying to send a message. But these people don't want the actual change. They want to make it known that they're mad, but they don't want to be a part of that change. And a part of that problem is that these people are not wanting to be a part of that change. They don't want to run for office. They're too lazy to run for office. They want a change, but they don't want to be a part of it. And that's what pisses me off about it too, is because the mayor of Minneapolis doesn't care. He's up for election in 2021. He's not going to do anything about this afterward. He's going to sit there and say, I charged them. We made sure that these guys were charged. That's the end of the situation. Then we're going to move on with our merry day. Tim Walz of Minnesota, the governor of Minnesota, does not care. He's not going to enact a change on this. I
think that you need to consider the fact that like what can they do? Like if they I don't think it's fair to say that these people don't care. I mean, obviously they do care. I don't think it's fair to call them to accuse them of not caring about something that's so obviously abhorrent. But I mean, what can they do is really the question that we need to be asking. What can these individual mayors, individual governors do?
You said that there should be a change at the police department level. That the procedure.
That's something that needs to be changed nationwide. That's a nationwide change that needs to occur. we need to fundamentally change the way that we view our police and fundamentally change the way that we see law enforcement. That's what needs to happen, because we need to acknowledge the fact that these problems are not rooted in racism. They're rooted in a misconception of people that police officers develop through the need for self-defense. That's misplaced. It's misplaced because it's just not true. If it was true that arresting a black person meant that you had a higher risk of dying, then we have to look at this a very different way. But that's not the case. Police officers are looking at black people, and when they arrest them, and they're saying that there's a higher chance that this person has a weapon, there's a higher chance that this person is going to be violent, when neither of those things are true. When it's statistically proven that white people are more likely to have a weapon when they're being arrested, meaning that they have a higher that their chances of threatening the life of that police officer are substantially higher than a black person. So it is reversed. We have it reversed in our head, in the police officer's head, and we need to establish that misconception, and we need to apply more standards that apply for accountability. And whether or not the governor or the mayor is able to implement that change in a way that's effective, I don't think that you can judge those people before anything has even occurred, when the riots are still going on. So I don't think it's fair to say that these people are just going to do nothing because they don't care, and they just don't care. I don't think it's fair to say that. But we'll see if that's true. I think that we'll see through their action whether or not that's true. But I don't think it's fair to judge them before any action has occurred in the first place. But yeah, the solutions are absolutely becoming more apparent day by day, and I think that it's time that we implement them.
And see, that's the other thing, is what should change at the police department level, and if it is enacted federally, what part of that should change? What are the
good question?
So the question that a lot of people don't know how to answer, and a lot of people are trying to figure out, is what specifically is the problem that police officers have. And some people, and I've heard this, and I'm not saying that this is my opinion, I'm basically kind of repeating something that I've heard, so it may sound wrong, so if this is not my opinion, but what I have heard is that one of the reasons why police officers act differently with black people is because black people act differently, is that they're more likely to resist, they're more likely to do something that's they also don't respond to authority that well. So, and again, I'm simply repeating something that I have heard. I'm just trying to be transparent, and as well as, saying everything, I guess. I'm trying to play all sides. I understand. So, and I think that there's certainly and I've seen a couple of posts on the internet by police officers saying that black people are, quote unquote, harder to police, I guess.
I think that, okay, here's what I have to say about that. Validity to the statement that African Americans are certainly going to be more nervous than white people around police officers. I think that that's just common sense. That if any black person is pulled over or accused of a crime, they are going to, because it's common knowledge at this point, especially the African American community, that their odds of being mistreated and of being arrested when maybe they were falsely accused are higher than white people. That's just a fact. But the solution to that problem, the solution to the nervousness, is not to crack down on them more. The solution is to treat them more fairly, because as soon as they see that they're being treated more fairly, then that problem goes away. So the problem that problem that you're mentioning is a symptom. It's a symptom, not a cause of the underlying problem. That's what I view it as. Issues. I think it's just a part of the underlying issues going on with there. And I don't think that's the truth unanimously either. I think that there absolutely is fault on the police's side, but I think that the nervousness of African Americans is absolutely going to be a factor. I mean, if the police officers see that they're more nervous than usual, they're not going to know what they're more nervous for. They're going to assume that they're more nervous for a bad reason, for a reason that it might put their lives in danger.
Yeah.
So it's really it's really a failure to communicate at the end of the day.
And this is a point I'm going to go ahead and try to get across. And so for those who actually are used to watching me, for this is kind of going to my viewers, like one of the things is, and for those who are listening too, whenever you're white and your first instinct is to say blue lives matter, you know, if someone says black lives matter and then you say, oh well, cops lives matter too, does that mean you not care about black lives or blue lives or something like that? Like, to respond whenever someone says black lives matter and your first response is to get mad at them about it, you're missing the entire point of what they're trying to say. As a white person in America, I don't know what it's like to be white. I don't know what it's like to be black. I don't know what it's like. I've never, in my opinion, I don't think to a point to where I have noticed, I have never been discriminated in my life. And whether that is because of my skin color or whether it's because I'm just not to be discriminated against, that's one thing. But you can't sit there and act like you know everything, especially if you are white. You can't sit there and act like you know what black people are going through, because you don't. And you are lying if you know. And there are some white people that live in close proximity to black people. They live in the same neighborhoods. They live in the same communities. So those people are probably going to be a little more relatable. But at the same time, even those people are less likely to be shot by a police officer. So one of the things is that you can't sit there and just say all lives matter, blue lives matter. You don't know what these people are going through. You don't know what it's like to be black. And you just can't. Frankly, honestly, I do believe it is disrespectful toward those that are, because if it was your kid, if it was your mom, if it was your dad, if it was your sister, if it was your brother, you would be pissed off. So don't sit there and disregard the argument just because someone is trying to say that Black Lives Matter. It's supposed to be Black Lives Matter too, not just Black Lives Matter. They're not trying to say that Black lives only matter. They're not trying to say that cops are, the worst people, but there is an underlying issue with current police administration. And the police do have a bias against black people. And that is admittable.
Yeah, I mean, the whole all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter thing is, I think, very misleading for a lot of people who are hearing for the first time. Because I heard this just earlier today. I mean, like when Notre Dame, the tower burned down, people weren't saying saying to go and support like St. John's Cathedral or go and support like this other cathedral. They were saying to go and support the Notre Dame Cathedral, because that was the cathedral that was burning down. And it's really the same argument that can be made for Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. If you're saying all lives matter, like that's not the issue that's at stake here. We're talking about Black lives. We're not talking about all lives. We're talking about this. So all lives matter really, at the end of the day, is just a cop-out. It's a cop-out in trying to paint with a broad brush, saying that, oh, you're focusing so much on just Black lives and not everyone. So we're saying that all lives matter, but what you're doing is you're just taking attention away from the group that is being discriminated against the most, and the group that does need help.
I can't sit there and acting like there isn't an underlying issue with being black in America. Like, I'm not, in my opinion at least, like, and I mean, again, this is coming from a white person, going as far to say, well, being black in America is a death sentence, I don't believe that is the case. But at the same time, I do believe that cops do have some sort of underlying bias with black people. So that's where the issue is kind of lying. That black people are they're basically, they have no choice but to be scared whenever they're up against the cop. And there are situations, even whenever a person wasn't killed, that, I mean, for example, in Midland, Texas, there was an incident in Midland. I think it was like a day or two after what had happened. Basically, like there was like a 21-year-old black kid, and the police followed him home, and whether it was justified or not, that's still under investigation. But basically, the whole situation ended up exploding because the grandmother of the kid who was being arrested, and these cops, they were just holding their weapons at him, and there was a spectator, and she was yelling at the kid saying, don't get up, they're going to kill you. And then the cops are telling him, hey, stand up, you need to come over to us. And the kid wasn't listening, so he was just on the ground, hands just standing, just sitting there. And then the grandmother comes up trying to defuse the whole situation. She ends up getting so like weak, and she's probably in her 80s or something like that. And she ended up getting so weak that she actually ended up falling over. And it actually, on video, it looked like that she was that the police had actually dragged her down. And I immediately thought that was the case, but no, that wasn't the case. So, and that's the other thing, is that what I really didn't like about especially Minneapolis is that these protesters, and especially the rioters, they're not giving enough time for the system to take its course, because the cop has already been charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter. So you're basically destroying your city trying to force something to happen which was already going to happen anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we can go back and forth talking about, whether the riots should have been avoided or not. I mean, I think that with any incident of this scale, where it's so blatantly outrageous, riots are unavoidable. So for the right to go out and say that, and to just treat this and just talk about this entire incident in the text of the riots, and the riots themselves are the problem, without looking at what's causing the riots, is just plainly ignorant. It's just plainly ignorant.
Yeah,
and it's really frustrating, and that's part of why I disagree so much with you, that it's not the Democrats who are mostly to blame here. I think the Democrats are to blame. I don't think that any side is pure here, but the Republicans are the ones who
I believe both sides are not equally shitty right now.
I think that I have to say it's more so Republicans. I have to say it's more so Republicans, just because it seems like everything that they've done and everything that they're still doing regarding race relations and regarding how to handle the police force is to just tell everyone to F off, pretty much, and just to leave the police force alone, and that race is not a factor, and just pretend they're colorblind, pretty much. Yeah. Pretending that they're colorblind to the statistics, and pretending that they're colorblind to the situation, that race should not and does not play a role. Just denying the reality, because they believe that the police force should be protected at all costs, and that any attack on the police force is an attack on the integrity of the country, which is just plainly ignorant. It's just plainly ignorant, and is allowing a problem to occur. Because let's not mince words. I mean, if the Republican Party was willing to take action, there'd be action. There would be action. There would be action, because we would have a united. We would have two sides that acknowledge the data and understand the data is correct. But the Republicans, time and time again, have proved that they're incapable of doing that. And I'm sorry to say that to you, PGs, because I understand that you are a Republican, but that's how I view the Republican Party.
Really hard to get to offend me. Like, I'm not, like, you're saying it against the Republican Party, but I mean, like, I slightly agree. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not, like, even if you were to say something like, oh, well,
that's how I view the Republican Party.
Yeah, like, I'm not.
There's climate change, whether it's voter fraud. Recent days, we can talk about that later if we want to, depending on how much time we have on this thing. Whether it's race relations, just deny.
Yeah, and so the reason that I was talking about the Democrats is because it's all about votes. And some of these candidates, like, and Donald Trump getting federal involvement into this situation possibly could be because, he's trying to get a stronger base among the black vote. So, but the thing is that the Democrats are the one, and the reason I was talking about the Democrats, and I actually do agree with RJ McNeil on my chat, and they're saying that to me it's not a Democrat-Republican issue. I don't believe it is a Democrat-Republican issue either. But what I do believe is
I think that you need to be careful about saying what's in a Republican issue, what's a Democrat issue, because I mean about COVID-19. COVID-19 isn't inherently a Democrat or Republican issue either, and yet there's very clear stances that you can take on either side of COVID-19 that are clearly defined as either Democratic or Republican. And the same thing goes for the riots. Obviously, the riots themselves are not a Democratic or Republican issue, and obviously the killings themselves are not a Democratic or Republican issue. But the stances that you take on either side on how to handle it is obviously a political issue, and is obviously something that you need to take a side on. And most people do take a side on whether it's Democrat or Republican.
And I hate it whenever it gets to that position, but once it gets to that point, then there's basically no turning back. So I mean, it's out of my control whether it's becoming a Democratic or Republican issue or a political issue. And I hate it whenever it becomes a political issue. I don't think that COVID should be a political issue. I don't think that the unjust deaths of Black Americans should be made into a political issue, but it always is made into a political issue because you have one side, like the Republicans, basically coming out and saying, I don't want my cop brothers to get in trouble. And there's actually a little bit of you should do some research on the blue wall of silence, which basically means that even conduct errors or crimes, including police brutality, are actually hidden because you don't do that to your coworkers. Like, you're a family. It's kind of like one of those things where if something happens in the family, you keep it within the family. But one of the things is that I don't think it should be made into a political issue. But then you have two different sides. You have the Republicans who are sitting there saying, I don't want the cops to get in trouble. They put their lives on the line every single day for me, and they protect me. They do so much for me. But then you have the Democrats too that tell you that they're going to change something. They're going to do something. We literally had a Black president for 8 years, and he had his own share. During his presidency, and this could be in contrast to possibly even him being Black, but he had his own race riots that he had to deal with. Ferguson, Baltimore, and there was nothing done federally. And you could say, well, the Republicans are the ones that actually blocked him from doing anything, but at the same time, he still had the power to do an executive order. Every president has the power to do an executive order. And if the courts are going to stop it, then just let the judicial system do its work. But you still have that executive power to protect people. And you're protecting life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And these people that are dying at the hands of these cops are being taken. Their rights, their constitutional right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are being taken from them. So the president has the full power to get involved through executive action to do something. And President Obama didn't do that for 8 years. So the Democrats are also at fault because they tell you they want to change. They tell you that they're going to change something. And as soon as they get into office, they're not going to change anything. We have the presumptive Democratic nominee. And I don't believe that any of these candidates in the 2020 field are that great. But Joe Biden is literally saying that all of this is bad, and I'll shut up in a second. I'm sorry I go off on these long tangents, but Joe Biden literally said the other day, if you don't vote for me, you ain't Black. You ain't Black. So we have a presumptive Democratic nominee that is literally saying that if you do not vote for him, you are not Black. And I don't know how much worse you can actually get than that. Because he's not going to.
Okay. Let's just clarify one thing though. Joe Biden's comments were awful. I felt embarrassed to be on the left when I heard them, but to compare them and to pretend that they even hold a candle to things that Trump has said about entire religious and ethnic groups is delusional.
That it's any better than what Trump has said.
There's no comparison here. There's no comparison. If we're talking about race relations, and which candidate serves to better benefit them, the choice is obviously Joe Biden. And you can give me all the statistics about how African Americans are doing better, but Trump has done nothing. Trump has done nothing for the African American community. Trump has done nothing for the Latino community and for minority rights in general. And the fact that he flaunts just BS proposals and says that he has is just dishonest. Like, Trump is running like an entire campaign of trying to peel away however many African Americans he can away from the left, which in the end of the day is not going to be many, but he's trying to peel away as many as he can because he knows that that's the most vote without doing any policy or without enacting anything that actually helps them. It's just dishonest and immoral. It's dishonest and immoral. And to pretend as though Joe Biden and Trump are even comparable when it comes to which one has given more disrespect for African American rights in general, the choice is blatantly clear. The choice is there's all kinds of things you can criticize Joe Biden for. I'm no fan of his background as a lawmaker during the 70s with the crackdown on crime that he enforced. I'm no fan of that.
Yeah.
But to pretend as though that would be so much worse than what we have in this president already. Trump tweeted just yesterday, if they start looting, start shooting. If they start looting, start shooting, which is to me so much worse than what Joe Biden said. A million times worse than what Joe Biden said. Nobody's talking about that. Because he's inciting violence. He's glorifying violence against these rioters who are mostly African American. He's glorifying violence against protesters who are mostly African American. And that comment, if they start when the looting starts, the shooting starts, that was the same exact things that the Miami police force in the 1960s were saying. The crackdown against the anti-segregation protesters. So it's race baiting. It's race baiting. It's dog whistling, and Trump is completely guilty of it. So let's not go down the road of comparing Joe Biden and Trump together as though they're even remotely comparable when it comes to race issues, because they're not. They're not.
I'm actually not that familiar with what happened in Miami.
It was during integrationism. It was throughout the entire country during the 60s. They were trying to push for integration, MLK and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Integrationist protests.
So
there were integrationist protests
was it just similar to what happened in Baltimore in 1968?
Was an integrationist protest, and it was okay. The comment that the police force made was saying that if the protesters start looting, start shooting, like as a way to crack down on the protests and the riots, to shoot at them, to shoot at these people with not rubber bullets, real bullets. That was the same exact thing.
Is that a lot of these people, and for one thing, Trump actually even came back after that, and he said that it's because of the violence that's already been happening at these rallies, at these riots. People have been shooting each other. There were 7 people shot by other people, not by police, by other people in Louisville, in Kentucky. So these people are already, not these people, the rioters, they're already engaging each other. So it's almost and I do believe that it is fully within the justifiable range of the president and for even him in his words, because they're already shooting at each other. So if they're not shooting these protests. They're not shooting these rioters with bullets. That's not been started. And that would be illegal. It'd be illegal for the federal government to attack rioters. That'd be an American Tiananmen Square. Don't start saying that's already happening. Because once you start saying it's already happening, it's gonna be happening. Because
they're not
what I'm
shooting
saying
rioters.
Is that it's not. I never said that they're shooting rioters. I'm saying that the rioters are shooting each other.
Right, you're saying the rioters are shooting them, so therefore you're saying the federal government is justified in shooting them?
No, I'm saying that if. Okay,
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm not hearing what you're saying.
Okay, so last night in Louisville, Kentucky, there were 7 people shot by rioters. There's already shooting happening. So the military, unless you want the federal, state, and local governments to just stand back and let people just kill each other, you're going to have a government response. So the government response is going to be justifiable because they're all
but the government response is not justifiable if it entails killing rioters who are unarmed and do not pose a threat in their lives. That is not justifiable. A government response that serves to disperse the crowds and provide crowd control with rubber bullets and even tear gas, that's justifiable. Shooting the rioters is exactly what China did in Tiananmen Square. That's exactly what China did in Tiananmen Square. If we shoot the rioters indiscriminately, just shoot them, we are no better than China. We are no better than China when it comes to how we handle our riots.
Yeah, but for one thing,
that's what Trump is publicly advocating for. He just likes to pour gasoline on the fire. That's what he's been doing since day one. That's what he's doing today.
But see, everyone is concentrating on his words whenever you're not looking at the situation. It's
because his words are important. He's the president of the United States, and his words will lead to action.
Okay, so the thing is that honestly, and personally me, I don't give a shit about his words. I give a shit about these people losing their homes, their businesses.
We live in a country of 350 million people. Do you think there's not going to be someone who sees if they start looting, start shooting, and says, "Yeah, I'm going to pick up a gun and go shoot those damn rioters"?
Okay, then you have people on the other side. Ice Cube literally came on Twitter and said something exactly similar. He literally said that we need to rise up. And you know what happened last time people rose up? We had Dallas. 5 officers killed. Because people were fed up. So Trump is saying that, yes, so there's a difference between whenever you're a rapper or a movie star and whenever you're the president of the United States. I get that. But at the same time, no one is better right now. The president is saying that, but people like Ice Cube, who has millions of followers, and you know the history that Ice Cube has. He literally came on Twitter the other day.
He's not an elected official.
Huh?
Ice Cube is not an elected official. That is the main distinction that needs to be made here. I don't care how many followers he has.
He also has a lot of followers that
the chief of our country, the chief executive of our nation. And if we start to say that it's okay for the chief executive of our nation to make these comments that are inciting violence, then democracy crumbles. That's what has happened in every single country where democracy has crumbled. As soon as we start to just say, "Oh, it's okay, it's just words. It's just words. They're not hurting anybody." But as soon as we start to mince words like that and take away their meaning, especially when it's coming from the president of the United States, democracy falls. I'm not trying to be melodramatic, but that is what happens.
Ignore it. So the fact that people are not ignoring what he is saying is good, because we're still gonna have an election. We're still gonna be able to get him out. He's President. Everyone said this about President Obama, that democracy was gonna fall whenever Obama was reelected president. We went through 8 years of Obama and nothing happened. We didn't have martial law. We didn't have anything.
I'm not saying democracy is going to fall under Trump. I'm saying that democracies fall and democracies have fallen, and the executive has no accountability whatsoever.
But
that's been the trend so far for the president.
The fact that you are
has
saying
a whole lot less accountability than other presidents have had.
The fact that you are saying all of this freely proves that democracy still has not fallen. You still have a voice. You still are able to go vote. You are still able to express your voice freely.
Yeah, and it's not an instant. You have to understand how you have to understand in other countries how this has happened and how the freedom of speech and how these liberties have been slowly eroded over time. You have to understand that.
And how it starts is always. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have the internet during the Roman Empire. We didn't have the internet.
I'm not talking about the Roman Empire. I'm talking about 2020. This is happening today. This is happening in El Salvador. This is happening in Romania. This is happening in China. This is happening everywhere. This is happening everywhere. This is not an old phenomenon. And we can look at these countries and we can see very clearly exact mirror images of what's happening today. How the snowball effect that began to get them to where they were right now. And when the president has no accountability, when the president is able to just Look at the bureaucracy. Let's just start with the bureaucracy because I think that's the best place to start when looking at the lack of accountability on Trump. Trump has been quoted with saying that he prefers to have acting officials. He prefers to have acting officials rather than standing officials because he just likes to get him in, get him out. That's what he said. He just likes to get him in, get him out because he likes to constantly have because the turnover in the Trump administration is no coincidence. It's no coincidence. Trump encourages the turnover in his administration because it allows those officials are supposed to be held accountable to Congress. Those officials are not supposed to be held accountable to the president himself. Mm-hmm. Those officials are supposed to be confirmed and voted in by Congress. When they're put in and appointed by the president and left as acting officials, they're not accountable to Congress. They're accountable to Trump. And when they're accountable to Trump, they'll do anything and say anything that helps Trump.
They are still.
So that's a very clear piece of a lack of accountability there.
Because even acting secretaries are still accountable and still have to testify before Congress. So to say
no, they
that
don't actually. No, they don't. It's not true. Acting officials don't have to testify unless there's something to testify for. Acting officials can stay in that position indefinitely. There's no point at which they have to be removed. And that's what Trump has done. He has kept acting officials in as long as he possibly can. Because when those acting officials are in, there's no accountability for their actions, and Trump is able to get done what he wants to get done, which is making it so there's a much less accountability on his actions and what he's doing, which is what he's succeeding in doing by keeping those acting officials in. And this is just one example. I can talk for hours about the other parts of the government. This is just the bureaucracy that he oversees.
Yeah, because I have also seen a bunch of this. Me and my other friend are actually talk about this stuff all the time, and I actually noticed that not the defense secretary, but it's the Homeland Security secretary that hasn't been confirmed ever since it was who was the one the female who did the family separation policy.
What's her name? Crap.
Kirsten.
I know who you're talking about.
Nelson.
Nielsen. Yeah. I know that.
She was actually the last Homeland Security secretary that was actually confirmed before the Senate.
That's what I'm saying. I have someone in your chat calling me an idiot right now. They don't have to testify unless there's something to testify for. We've seen Trump officials in the past testify for scandals that are going on in the Trump administration. But if there's something to testify for, if they're just an acting official, they don't have to testify unless they're being confirmed. And the nature of being an acting official is that they don't have to testify and get confirmed by Congress. They're an acting official, as in temporary. But temporary can be 2 weeks or it can be 2 months in the Trump administration. That's where the lack of accountability is.
Okay. I'm trying to do some research right now to see, like, if you can pull something up to where you can show me, like, where they don't have to testify or something like that, because I do believe they still have to.
Testify for what? Like an acting official does not have to testify. Andrew McCabe did not have to testify when he became acting official after James Comey was pushed out.
The only thing is that whenever you testify before Congress, it's not really like about anything in particular. You're talking about like testifying before Congress is basically saying this is what my
that's a good point.
That's a
really good point.
Yeah, so it's checks and balances. It's because they have to go to Congress. They're saying this is what I'm doing with my department. This is what I'm going to do. These are my plans. And then Congress or the Senate or House or something, and then they say, okay, go back and forth. That's what we do.
The difference is there is that there is an accountability there. They can testify and report on their actions, and Congress can criticize them, but they're not accountable to Congress. They're accountable to the president.
By saying
they're accountable to the president because because it's the president who nominates them. It's the president who nominates them, and those acting officials want to be nominated for a full position. Those acting officials don't want to stay acting. They want to be in the position, and they want to stay in the position. And the way they do that is to get nominated by Trump. So they are accountable to Trump to a fault. They're not accountable to Congress because they are acting.
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing some research. There's something.
I see you got the Wikipedia page pulled up.
Yeah, don't yell at me for using Wikipedia.
I'll try. But the last debate kind of spiraled out of control because we kept on fact checking each other. I just want to say that.
If you need sources, there's sources on these things. So.
About sources, I mean, the thing is that we just keep on going into Wikipedia to fact check every little thing that we say, like we did last time. It's just gonna hinder on the discussion. But you can clarify whatever information you need.
I'm just trying to see what you were talking about because that's what I'm trying to figure out is you're saying that they're not accountable, but I still believe that they actually are.
Explain to me how they are. Explain to me how the acting officials are accountable, because I don't see how they are when it's the president.
The only difference is that they're not, is that they're appointed and they're not confirmed before the Senate. But they still have the same duties, they still have the same responsibilities, and they still have the same consequences if they fuck up.
Oh no, not the same consequences. The consequences are very different, because it's okay. So an acting official, their goal is to become not just an acting official, but an official who is in that position and is there to stay. Because when they're an acting official, they can be removed at a moment's notice. That's the difference. That Trump can remove those acting officials whenever he so pleases, a lot easier than he can regular officials, and he has the power to nominate them to the full position. So there you have both power.
I'm starting to get what you're saying now.
Both the power that they want and the fact that they can be removed just as easily lies solely with Trump. It lies solely with Trump. So that's where you get the lack of accountability. We have steered so far off course. So far off course from where we're talking about, but that's okay. That is okay.
I mean, that's what happens. I mean, that happens.
Yeah. I just acknowledge that for anyone who's tuning in and expecting us to talk about Minnesota. Because we have been talking about Minnesota for at least...
We've been live streaming for like an hour and a half, and we talked about Minnesota for...
We talked about it for about an hour. I think we're good, pretty much there. We can verge into other topics.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'm just going off. Someone says the cabinet was never accountable toward Congress. They can be impeached, however. Yeah, see, that's what I was trying to say, is that like even
cabinet can't be impeached. Cabinet can't be impeached. Presidents and justices can be impeached. Cabinet officials cannot be impeached, though.
Anyone can be impeached that holds public office. And whenever
is that true? I'm gonna check on that.
The process of impeachment isn't just for the president or a governor or something like that. Impeachment means that you're not able to hold public office again. And it means that like you've committed...
I don't know, because I was under the impression that was just for presidents and for for justices.
It's for justices. It's okay.
So yeah, okay. So any official can be impeached. It just never happens. It just never happens.
It never happens because I mean, how often do you ever see a cabinet official breaking a law?
Well, I mean, it's interesting they bring that up because I mean, with everything that's been going on with Pompeo, I would expect at least like a mention of impeachment to be brought up, and I haven't seen that.
So, the Constitution gives Congress the authority to impeach and remove the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States upon a determination that such officers have engaged in treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. The Constitution does not articulate who qualifies as a civil officer of the United States. That's up to the interpretation of the Supreme Court and other federal judges.
So that probably explains why it's been limited to presidents and like one or two Supreme Court justices. And I want to clarify that that's
of Alabama recently.
But I want to clarify that impeachment alone is not a proper check on whether it's the president or whether it's his the members of his administration. That's not a proper check, because if we determine that the only valid reason to have a check on a government official is if they commit a crime, and only if they commit a crime, and only if the crime is clearly defined, then they can get away with so much else that just toes the line between what's a crime and what isn't. Corruption can occur without a crime occurring. we know that revolving door is one of the most corrupt instances in government to ever occur and to continue occurring, and yet that's still not defined as a crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a crime to not serve your people, and to it's not a crime necessarily to act in your own self-interest.
Yeah.
There are certainly crimes where acting in your self-interest is entailed in that crime. Acting in your self-interest alone is not a crime, although action should be taken. So that is really why I don't think impeachment is a proper check.
Yeah. So, and this is on Ballotpedia. In the past, Congress has shown a willingness to impeach federal judges and cabinet-level executive branch officials, but a reluctance to impeach private individuals and members of Congress. So yeah, like that's what I was trying. That's what I was trying to figure out, because you were literally just saying, you know, like these people, especially in cabinet level, like they're not accountable. Like they basically are still accountable, because you know they can still be impeached. They're still able to be punished for anything that they're due.
But there's a reason impeachment has never happened for a cabinet official. It's because there's one, never really been a need to, and two, because it's the president's job to remove those officials if they're doing something corrupt, which he's done in the past. This president has done in the past. Whether it's for the cabinet officials who are acting alone and doing scandalous activities, or just not operating to Trump's proper degree of loyalty that he expects. Trump has removed plenty of cabinet officials for not operating what he wants, and that's part of the problem. Like we shouldn't treat it as though removing the cabinet officials should be the goal. The goal should be to have cabinet officials who are there and are not acting, but are there to stay, and that should be the goal. Because the turnover is the problem. The turnover is a big part of the problem. The fact that Trump has so many officials going in and out, just makes these officials going into the cabinet even more hesitant and even more like filled with trepidation over like trying to stay in line with the president, trying to stay loyal to the president, which in most of the cabinet is not their job. The Justice Department's job is not to be loyal to Trump. The Justice Department's job is to maintain justice. That's not what we're seeing under William Barr. It's not what we're seeing under William Barr at all.
Yeah, one of my, just wanted to respond to one of my viewers. Someone said, Trump isn't impeached, to be honest, because he never got convicted. That's a lie, for one. He was impeached. He was impeached by the House of Representatives. So impeached, just because you were not removed from office does not mean that you were not impeached. President Clinton
I understand there's between impeachment and conviction, but that's also a good point, is that impeachment is not necessarily a check at all. Impeachment is really
is just impeachment. It's just saying impeachment is a formal House resolution agreement by the House of Representatives saying we approve that the people of the United States are in support of removing this president. We are sending this delegation to the Senate of the United States to do a trial to judge whether he has committed a crime. So Trump was impeached. So that's what impeachment means. It's a formal House agreement to remove the president from office because of crimes that he has been suspected of committing. So Trump was suspected of committing a crime. He was impeached by the House of Representatives, but he was acquitted by the Senate, which is expected. So the thing is that you can't sit there and say, well, he wasn't impeached. Yes, he was impeached. He just was not removed from office. There have been 3 presidents that have been impeached: Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and now Donald Trump. So yes, he was impeached. Just to clarify.
Got it right up on my wall. This is the proof.
Yeah, like I mean, some people are literally just trying to like make it, and that's really what really makes me mad, is that there's a lot of people that want to make Trump to be this like just this godlike figure among the Republican Party, like the next Ronald Reagan or something like that, and I absolutely hate that. I'm sorry, it's just wrong. You're basically forfeiting your conservative principles of small government. You're basically, and especially these people like in Michigan, for example, like they're basically saying that they're listening to the president. They're listening to the federal government over their own state government. So
the Republican Party has, let's not make any mistake. I mean, I know to most people looking at the current political situation in the country, most would say that it's the Democrats who are Democratic Party that's more screwed than the Republican Party. But the Republican Party is relying on Trump as life support. Once Trump is gone, they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing because they have banked everything on him. The Republican Party has banked everything on Trump. They've banked their values. They've banked the way they govern. Everything is banked on Trump. They become the Trump party.
Yeah,
and once Trump is no longer the centerpiece of the Trump party is irrelevant.
That's one of the big things that really just upsets me about it is that there's a specific group of people, especially among these Trump lovers that literally, and I think I wasn't really like that whenever I first got into Trump because I was a Bernie supporter and then I switched over to Trump. Mostly
I don't understand how you can be a Bernie supporter and switch over to Trump. I think that's criminal, but sorry.
Whatever. But it's only because it would be a better discussion for another time. But the thing is that you can't sit there and act like Trump cannot do any wrong, because if you don't think that a president can do wrong, then you're allowing a lot of bad things to happen. People did that with Hitler. People did that with Stalin. People did that with a lot of these other bad guys. And I'm not trying to either compare Trump to a dictator, and I'm not trying to say that Trump is Hitler either. But at the same time, you can't sit there and act like that this president cannot do any wrong, because President Trump has done a lot of wrong. And this election is really hard for a lot of people because they don't for one, they don't want Biden, and then two, they don't want Trump either. So it's another 2016, and I honestly don't think we're going to get another freaking normal election until at least 2024 or 2028.
I really don't think that's incomparable to 2016, because I think that the one thing that defined 2016 above everything else is that it's just a pure hate, because I don't think that the same hatred exists for Joe Biden that exists for Hillary Clinton. I just don't. I think the malice that was against Hillary Clinton was so much more strong and so much more prevalent. I think the Republicans are trying very hard to try to mimic what they did in 2016 with smearing Hillary Clinton to dust, but they're not doing as well just because Biden is not Hillary Clinton for one, and for a big difference I'd like to point out between this election and 2016 is that most people right now, like most people in general, think Trump's going to win. Like polls show that most people think Trump's going to win 2020. But those same polls are showing that most people also support Biden, meaning that most people support Biden, but most people also think Trump's going to win. And I think that when you have that, you're going to have, I think that's promising. I think that that's very promising for Democrats, because a big problem in 2016 was that the Hillary Clinton supporters who supported Hillary Clinton a little bit, but not enough to go out and vote for her, meaning that they just were picking her as a lesser of two evils, didn't go out and vote because they just thought that she was going to win. We had the opposite thing going on in 2016, because we had approval really just awful for both candidates, and we also had most people saying that they just think Hillary Clinton's going to win either way. That's the opposite of what's going on now. And what happened was a lack of turnout, a huge lack of turnout. That was a big reason why Trump won, is just because the Hillary Clinton supporters and the Democrats just didn't turn out because of all the just hatred that was spewed in the 2016 election.
The same thing is going to happen this time, is because young people are not going to turn out. I don't think young people are going to be absolutely sure that the turnout among younger people is probably going to be similar or slightly higher than what it was in 2016, because young people are energetic. They see these things going on and they care. But whenever it comes to actually trying to change the official that's in office, it's not gonna fare that well, because especially on the local level, I do believe that Republicans are going to be able to. I'm not saying that the Republicans can, like, win things like the House or something like that, but the Senate and the presidency are very likely going to stay Republican because of young people, and especially among African Americans. They're not going to be turning out in stuff like this. I mean, I think there was a race riot in 2016 and it didn't really budge what happened. And a lot of these people are saying, well, this is going to change the election. I don't think that even what's going on in Minneapolis, like, maybe it's not really going to be an issue where they're going to look at it and say, okay, well, because there's already a bad sentiment among Trump in general among black people. And I believe that, Minnesota wise, it's probably going to be even similar to what it was in 2016. I don't think it's going to be a Republican victory, but like it's not going to change that much.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly no optimist when it comes to the youth vote in 2020, and I think that having Biden on the ticket certainly does not help the youth vote in any way. I mean, I think there would have been a chance of Bernie Sanders with the nominee for the youth vote, but now with Joe Biden, there's no hope for it. But what I'm saying is that I think the Democrats would benefit enormously from having that youth vote turning out, and I think that they're foolish, very foolish for cutting off their nose to spite their face when it comes to just fighting against Bernie Sanders at all costs because of ideology, and when they're losing the youth vote, which is literally the future for them. It's literally the future for them. I think they're very foolish when it comes to that. Very foolish. But I don't think that they necessarily need. I think that, like I said, I think they may benefit enormously, and I think it's foolish for them to not do it. But I think that polls are showing that they don't necessarily need that youth vote to win. Because right now, the majority, and I know that people are always going to be saying, especially now, and not to look at polls, not to hyperanalyze polls, and I'm not, but polls are still a pretty good way to judge where the country is going to be voting. And I think the fact that most people are saying that they'll vote for Joe Biden, and most people are also saying that they think Trump is going to win, is going to help more turnout occur, because turnout is the main issue for Democrats. And I think that the fact that if they think that Trump's going to win, that's going to prompt more Democrats to turn out, not less Democrats to turn out, because more Democrats are going to want to turn out just for the common goal of not wanting Trump to win re-election. I think that's a really big factor that people aren't considering. I think I'm going to close off the stream in a few minutes, but is there anything else that you'd like to say about anything else that we discussed? I mean,
no, I mean, I think I got all of my words in, honestly.
Yeah, me too, man. I mean, this was a good discussion, and I would love to do this. I would love to do this more regularly.
Yeah, I mean,
we can work out a schedule as
well. As long as it doesn't take us 15 minutes to get our mics set up, and then I think
I think that now that we've figured it out this time, we'll definitely be dealing with those same problems next time we do this. So, all right, I think we're good then.
Yeah, that's fine. But if you're good, then I'm good too.
All right. Want to close out first, or I can close out, or?
You can go ahead and close out.
All right, so thank you for anyone who followed during the stream. I did get to pick up a few followers during the stream. Thank you for anyone who was commenting. I did get a lot of people who are regularly commenting and contributing. Heavy Fisted, thank you for all your comments. Yeah, this was a good stream, and I'm really looking forward to more in the future. All right. And you can expect, you can expect more streams in the future. Maybe not with PG. I think I might do a bit more streams in between this week and next week, or maybe I'm just talking about current events. But we'll figure it out. This whole channel is still very much a work in progress, and I'm looking forward to moving forward.
All right, and I'm looking forward to moving forward too. Like, thank you for having me on, and
of course, thank you for having me on.
Also,
and thank you to PG stream as well. I was also reading your comments as well. Thank you for everyone who contributed there.
Yeah, I literally saw you. You've literally just been looking at my stream this entire time. But yeah, for those who are watching right now, let me actually go ahead and post Zach's Twitch into the chat. And everyone, just go ahead and go follow. Huh?
It was the same for you.
Thank you. But for those who are watching right now, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you are regular to my channel, just go ahead and follow Zach. He also has a YouTube channel. Just look up Zach Z. But yeah, if you guys like this, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and hopefully, I mean, maybe in the future, yeah, probably not with Zach, but possibly a couple other people that I can have on just for these little podcasts, have a little discussion with some of you guys. That would be really cool if you guys are interested. So go ahead and follow me on Discord. The Nightbot has actually been posting that in the chat, so if you can see it, just go ahead and follow me there, and we can discuss things as they happen.
All right, I think that does it. All right, I'll see you around, everyone. Bye.
See ya.
Okay, PG.